Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to this isn't It Came From the Workbench. Yes. This isn't It Came From the Workbench, but we're going to call this It Came From the Workbench Lite, L-I-T-E, because we should get 2 episodes out of this because fabrication is absolutely minimal. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure fabrication is already done. I finished it before I even turned on the camera because what I needed to do was shuffle through this box. I need to put this gearbox into these frame rails. TRX4 rails, 3-gear box. Why is nobody making a skid that lets me put that in that? Nobody does it. There might be a 3D printed one out there that I haven't been able to find, but the second part of that sentence is the operative part. I haven't been able to find it. And why this is critical is you've got yourself a typical 3-gear skid. The one that's on there is pretty narrow. Here's an element skid that is 77 millimeters wide. Here is this guy. He is also 77 millimeters wide. But here are the 2 pieces of, well, this is supposed to be one piece like that. We'll hold that like that. And then the second piece is the little snoot at the front that holds the front of the gearbox because the motor sticks out on the front on the TRX4. This had a bow in it, and I just about 2 minutes ago, I went like this. Oh, we can get that bow out, and it's 2 pieces. We only need this for a momentary illustration anyway, because from there to there, mounting surface to mounting surface is 91 millimeters wide. That is extraordinarily wide. For those unfamiliar with the that's in the circular file. For those unfamiliar with the TRX4 chassis, it has a huge amount of pinch because out here we're about the width of a skid. I want to say let's get the box of stuff out. That's that front piece. Need something like this. Yeah, so we're at about 73, 74 millimeters. So the pinch on other vehicles is far smaller than the TRX4. The TRX4 kind of has the most. So what we're building here, and well, what we're going to assemble here is a TRX 410. We've done this sort of behavior before in which we incorporate Traxxas axles under Vanquish things or Element things, but now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to put some genuine alloy F10Ts. There's the front one. It's missing a bearing. Don't let me forget to put that bearing in. We're going to put those under a full TRX4 chassis. And when I say full TRX4 chassis, I mean the full thing. Fenders, the whole deal. Well, provided we've got the body that's going on, an AliExpress special, we can probably, hopefully the fenders will fit. If not, we can trim them enough to fit. I don't consider that to be an element of fabrication. Slider, servo mount, servo. We don't need that part. We do need that. We need that. It doesn't have any bumpers. There's a brace. There's a front battery mount. Strap for that. Pair of shocks. Better spur gear. We do need that. We don't need that. We shouldn't need any of this. We will need this, but not imminently. We don't need any electronics right away. What we've done is we've dug into... We're also not going to need this guy imminently. And we've got links, but the chances of these links lining up with where we need the wheelbase to be exists somewhere between slim and none. So we will dig through the bins and we will get the links to suit. Hey, I found the other chassis rail. Can you believe it? What we did, first things first, I'm the realist. You dig through and you get yourself an old set of TRX4 rails that have been removed from another TRX4. That's a good idea. You take that rail, you take this skid. This is a perfectly new one that's fresh out of the bag. You're going to cut these 2 tabs off the end because we need this hole and this hole, but we don't need these because we're not going into an element chassis. So use your brain to imagine that everything under my thumbs has disappeared. We then line it up inside the TRX4 chassis. We make some marks with a pencil, and then we drill a bunch of holes. This is what this rail ordinarily looks like. 3 holes, and we add 3 more holes. So now it has 6 holes. But this is now forever a template. We don't need that again, because if we are ever possessed with the illness again, to put a 3-gear inside of a TRX4, now we know the spacing for an element skid, which is basically the same as the fitment of any other skid, but I do like the way Element does their lower links, and now we have upper link mounts, because what we're going to lose is upper link mounts, because the skid that has upper link mounts on it is in the trash can. So, Traxxas, in a very proprietary power method, made it to where you can't fit anything else in there. Their drive shafts don't work on anything else because they don't have enough deflection to fit on other vehicles. You can't mount anything else to that skid. You have to replace that skid. It mounts with 6 widely spaced holes. I mean, look how big that skid is, and then it's actually longer than what this is. And then the motor's way out here. It's an ingenious design, and the TRX4 platform still, to me, exists as the platform with the most options for expansion. You can make it into whatever you want it to be. We're making it into a TRX 410 here with Vanquish axles under it, but you can't just slap straight axles on a TRX4 gearbox. You lose all your gear reduction, and now you have like 20-to-1 final, and you're zooming around the yard at high speeds. So we want to build a crawler. So we take the aforementioned rail. Here's the other one. Here's the other one. And we drill holes in it. What did I do with the other one? We drill holes in both of them because we're going to bolt them up as a mock-up, right? And then we're going to grab ourselves a big old hank of 3/8-inch Delrin. This is from McMaster-Carr. And you buy it in a 4-inch wide strip of whatever length you want. You can get a 6-foot long one if you want. I usually buy it 2 feet at a time. And curiously enough, if you'll, how many rails do I need? How many rails do I need? You're going to put that guy right in there like that. Look at how 4-inch fits. You're going to transfer those holes over to the Delrin. You're going to drill holes into it. And then, if you have inside you an active or latent woodworker, and you see the opportunity to run a dado, you're going to run a dado. So we ran a dado. And then here is the skid with the end pieces lopped off. And those are the holes that mount to the element skid. And here are the other holes. And we left this hole. This hole is threaded, and this hole is threaded. And the reason we're doing this is because this is a TRX4. So it's going to have, are they out here? Did I pull them out of the bin? It's going to have the chassis sides. It's going to have, where are the chassis sides? I'll find those. Don't worry about it. It's going to have all the bits. And we have here exposed the 3 holes, because we're going to mount the front upper there, and we're going to mount the rear upper there. So this is really TRX Element 410, because we're going to basically have the chassis point link geometry of an Element. We're going to have the front end geometry that is a hybridization of the Traxxas and the Vanquish. Then we're going to have the axle mount geometry of F10s. We're just, you know what we're doing? We're making a delicious soup in which we take a bunch of things, we throw it in a pot, and we find out at the end if it tastes good. What did I do with the chassis sides? I know I've got like a dozen of them. I'm going to find those chassis sides. So, now, what we can do... No, I can't. I can't even screw anything together without some chassis sides. It's like, not only do you know you have them, but you've got the whole sack. Oh, with the receiver box. Nice. Let's just, here's why we don't worry about the fact that we snap. Yeah, don't wedge on that. You will disassemble that. A couple more sliders. Are they all brand new? Yeah, they're all brand new. Let's just start piling. We'll see what fenders. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. I've got them both. Oh no, are they all? No, I've got them both. I've got regular, and I've got clipless. Unfortunately, we don't have the clipless. Don't let me speak too soon. Nope, not included in this bag of parts. If they'd had the clipless bits in there, we could have mounted an aftermarket body clipless, potentially. So we're going to run pins. We're going to put pins in it. It's an AliExpress body. It's the full mask. As you can see, the mask is on the inside, as they love to do. They don't know what this is. They just put the mask wherever. So now we've got the sides, and way too many pieces here. That's the back. That's the back. Let us see if we cannot slap this together. And because I tapped that hole, oh dang it. Oh no, that does work out. Incidental victories, man. Let's see if a 10 bottoms out. I didn't check the depth. Yep. Needs an 8. We need an 8 for that. That's fine. I genuinely debated over drilling into the chassis, like into this part of the chassis, so that we would have a deeper thread depth. I well and truly don't think that it's necessary. This thing is going to be squeezed together more than enough. And I dug around for those things kind of semi-unnecessarily. Okay, so that's a clippy. We're not going to use a clippy. That's a clippy. And in the beauty of Traxxas, RR, I need LR. LR. There we go. And what we're going to do now is a bunch of just boring screw insertions. Let's just take a moment to appreciate these dados in here. Oh, and by the way, from edge to edge on there, R forward, 91 millimeters wide. So this should fit exactly as the Traxxas part did, and the skid definitely hangs lower. After looking at the body, I've still got some unmounted Class 1 megalithics. We might try setting this thing up Class 1. We'll see what fits. I'm not averse to cutting the flares all the way off, but the more meat you can leave on an AliExpress body, usually the longer it's going to survive. So I have this. I've got a bumper mount and another bumper mount. Are they both? Oh, nice. I've got 2 fronts. There's no bumpers. We'll dig something out of the bins. We'll see if we can find some bumpers that fit. We've got 2 chassis rails. We've got sliders. We've got sides. We've got RF, LR, RR, and LF. Nice. For those, we've got this brace. We've got the rear brace. We've got the servo mount. Okay. I have the pieces from which a TRX4 is made. I'm going to do that thing. This is not this. I mean, this is the workbench, and it's coming from the workbench. But we're not. I'm just assembling pieces, and I've done this many times. Out of frame, I also need to rebuild these shocks because, yeah, that is directly how they came in. Or were they glow-backed? Who are these? Color, 85 millimeter. As I said, they don't know what they're making. I'm going to get these parts put in. We'll do a magical woo like that, and it will go from this pile of parts. Well, it won't have axles installed. We have no idea what links are going to fit. We're building to a body to an extent, so we'll do like a whoo, like it'll swipe to the side, and then this will be a chassis. All right, here's what I can tell you. We have definitely teleported forward in time because as I started putting parts on, I started to get nervous that the wheelbase wasn't going to fit. Fenders weren't going to fit. Then there was a bandsaw. There was a lot of, let's just drop Susan in the midst of the chaos here. Okay, this body, AliExpress special, you can also find them on Amazon sometimes. Not a perfect fit for the full fendered TRX4 operation here, but I did get it to fit. 15 millimeter risers on the sliders to pull the sliders up, and that's That's not too bad. On the TRX4, they hang way down. They're way well. The bottom of that slider would be 15 millimeters lower than it is now. And as it is now, it's kind of parallel with the chassis. They use the slider to kind of hide the chassis. So the body sits up appropriately high. Found a delete from I don't know what, because there's no real way to get a good rear bumper on there without cutting a bunch more of the body off. And even then, it's almost parallel with the back of the body. We cut off a bunch. We had a leftover Mias body mount that just happened to line up perfectly in the center of that. And because it's that textured, it's much thicker right there. So it actually feels pretty firm even with the cutouts. I probably should take a little bit off of those inner fender wells. I'm not averse. We will see, because sometimes the body doesn't want to sit down quite right. Front body mount is a front body mount. Just went in normally. This is one of the Benedict Harry front bumpers, and no, we did not have to fabricate that piece. That is from Jolly Green. So that's Jolly Green's whole front bumper. We cropped the ends down to fit this. I will probably sand the whole thing down and just leave it natural. Had to flip the mount on it. It has multiple positions that you can mount the bumper. I flipped it one position, and there we are, right there. There we are. Pins on the front, screws on the back. Well, I mean, you know, as they say, whatever it takes to get it to fit. And it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty good. The wheelbase on this body, I have measured it so many times, and I feel like it's 313, but in reality, it's probably closer to about 305. And the way that and that's okay, because I'm thinking even a 465. Give me a Canyon rack, feed me a Canyon trail. I feel like even a Canyon trail is going to be pretty stomper action and will require cutting the fender. Like, can you see the line right there? Would probably have to cut the fender all the way off at the line. Meanwhilst, a Class 1, I'm thinking this, I think this is a class. We've got the TRX Element 410. I'm thinking it's a Class 1. Maybe up to 4.5, 4.4, 4.5, somewhere in there. Ripsaw would probably be real good. It's on a straight axle, but we have other vehicles here. Rusty here is on a TRX4 chassis. F10 straights. 393 Bounty Hunters. And Rusty is a monster. I put 16s on here because I needed to drill the holes. And it does not need 16s. It needs much shorter than that. I don't even mind. There was a time when it would have genuinely bothered me being unable to get the same body mount front and rear. I'd have to fabricate a plate. I'd have to chop up a body mount to get it sit down low enough. Oh, I just realized there's 4 screws there. I could have made a plate. But you know what we do? We go with the flow. I don't worry about it. We're gonna get it to fit. That body mount is fixed there. So the way I do this is I do front axle first, because it is infinitely more frustrating to do, because you have to worry about panhard and drag link alignment. And we have no options for moving the servo around. As this is a TRX4 with Vanquish axles and element geometry. So we're going to get this guy here. We'll get some screws in that to put that guy down. He should be pretty adjustable to get to the horn. But before we do any of that, what we need to do is, bear with me a moment. I was all raring and ready to start throwing the gearbox in here when I realized before we can do anything, we need mounted Class 1s. Look at, so if universals weren't getting in your way, look at the maximum throw you can get on an F10. Oh. There's a little bit of jam to it. Let me pull that down. That's pretty steep. It's definitely going to have more steer angle than typically a TRX4 would. So, here's our panhard. So we'll just try to line that up a little bit, and we're going to set this in, and we're going to see, okay, everything looks positive notes on the moment, because that panhard looks like it's going to be pretty straight. We want to get, we're just kind of loosely eyeballing this on, and we'll look at about that placement right there. We'll grab us a ruler, and we're going to go off of the lower links, which will be I'm going to say 105. That side is 100. So 102. So we have to locate links and ends and pair those up to make 102 eye to eye for front lower. This is the part of the program where you get to remake links like 8 times. I also realized, because it has the, where's the part? There's the little guy on the chassis right there. We can mount to either the element position or the TRX4 position and get a little mix in there, depending on what lines up better with the panhard mount, because the panhard mount on an F10 is not going to be in the same spot as the panhard mount on a, upper link mount and the panhard mount. Both are not going to be in the same spot that they are on a TRX4 axle. So we start by setting the wheelbase. We put the front lowers go in first, and when we go to the rear, we will set the rear lowers in first. You set pinion angle with the uppers. We don't have link mount options on this. We can go there. And I guess if we used a longer screw and a spacer, we could go there. So we can adjust upper link length a little bit. Like if they're the exact same length, we can adjust it a little. But we have no vertical adjustment range. I just don't want mechanical interference. I don't want links to hit the chassis. And this should be doable. But Rusty runs a TRX4 gearbox, so I can't look at his link lengths. We're starting from scratch here. I need to build a pair of 102s. And then we will lightly set the axle in place, and we will see, what does the panhard look like? Do we have to continue using, when the axle came in, this is basically a full assembly from a 10.3, which, I mean, you never know, it might line up. We hope for the best and anticipate the worst, and I'm going to build at least 2 links. Minimum of 2 links. And then we'll see where we end up then. So if in the half of a second it takes for a transition to go by, for it to blur from one thing to another, we're beginning to build some suspicions in that half a second. And then you see what it looks like here. You know exactly what's happened. I made 2 links, and then I made 3 links, and then I made 7 links, and then I made 9 links, and then the next thing you know, you've got a roller. I'm grasping on the head right now. I borrowed Lord Penneby's wheels and tires because they're the only Class 1s that I have mounted right now. I mean, I guess I could have gotten Rusty. Any of the Class 1s that are mounted are in service. Lord Penneby lives right up here, right above the camera. It was easy to steal his wheels and tires, which allowed me to basically set the wheelbase. Do you know what I know right now? I have no idea what the wheelbase is. I built it to the fenders. This gentleman is, I'd say 308. 308, 309. And because of the arbitrary holes that I chose, the front lowers ended up being particularly short. We got real skid forward on this thing just pretty much by accident. Fronts are 100. Front lowers are 100. The front upper is 73. I did indeed go to the TRX4 mounting position because it looked like if I went to this position, which needs a screw in it, it looks like if I had gone to that position, it would have, the links would have hit each other. I was worried about the rear links hitting each other, but it turns out they didn't. The rear lowers ended up at 149, 148, 149 for the lowers, and about 142 for the uppers. So it's pretty skid forward. the at least in terms of the uppers, the rear uppers are double the length of the front upper. And I can't claim to have gotten the front geometry perfect, but the front geometry is not bad. We have, between full droop and full compression, we have 5 millimeters of the axle swings 5 millimeters to the passenger side, which is coincidentally half of the distance between the slider and the that skirt side. 5 millimeters between there and there. So half of that distance. The shocks are not filled. They were fitted because I needed to determine shock angle. The body would have optimally been slid back about 2 millimeters, 2 to 3 millimeters. This is kind of where the body stopped. By the time we reckoned that there was about 3 millimeters of additional space, it was already made. So we're not absolutely, I trimmed it out a little to put it back into the center. Oh, I remembered why. This thing's basically a class 1. The inner fender won't really clear anything bigger. This body wanted to be class 1. It looks like a pickup truck to me. It's kind of crazy. It just looks like a pickup truck. I know that the gentleman who sent in the parts, I know he doesn't have a class 1 rig. Well, guess what? He does now. And the height that it's sitting with no electronics, well, where's Senior Fusion? Without a Fusion in it, Fusion 1200 should be spot on for this, by the way. All we need to do is, well, I need to build the shocks. They are bone dry on the inside. We don't have to worry about the bumper. We should get the absolute minimum of angry pirate ship noises. Everything kind of dimensioned out right. By choosing those arbitrary holes, finishing a thought, we got skid forward. I didn't set out to be skid forward. So Ghost Ride stuff is definitely in place. I will refabricate this part back here for the mount. I will refabricate that part to use multiple holes on the shock towers, at least these front 2. This particular pair of towers, I didn't carve these up. Somebody carved those up. Maybe they were in the way of something. Maybe they had the body mount flipped around the other way so that it wouldn't clear. I don't know. These are secondhand parts. Everything on here is secondhand. Oh, and I should point out. So this is the very economical Amazon dig box, which when I ordered the first couple, we have a couple of them in service here, 2 gold ones. And when I first started ordering them, they were identical to this one, the QT, or what I call the tricolor. It's got the red, black, and silver, the tricolor. Now, the fake ones, these are strongly advised against. Not just not recommended, but advised against, because all of the components inside the dig module are brass. And brass is really not a thing for that. You want hardened steel back there. So now the Amazon dig box, the tricolor at $60, that's what they cost all the time, remains the choice. I personally, were I building this for use here, I would omit dig altogether and I'd put a Stealth X in it. Because then we can just put 12 or 18% underdrive in the gearbox, and then it's a 2-channel class 1, run the battery in the front, and everything's good. We're going to see how the springing comes out. Because as it sits now, incomplete and undamped, yeah, basically the springs are holding it all the way up, which is good. Because we're going to add the weight of this, we're going to add the weight of the battery, and it would be great if these 1.2 pound, 1.3 pound, whatever they might be, I have not rated them yet, and I cannot with confidence say that they're going to be the same rate as the ones that we've had them before, because every time you get them, it's something different. Some of them have pistons, some of them don't. I've gotten 1.0 pound, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7, 2.0. You name it on what the springs are going to come out. So these are 10 by 40s. It's not a problem. We will have the springs to rate this thing in an appropriate way to run it. It needs electronics mounted. I have the dig bracket. This is the dig bracket that I drew up to go like this. You can mount it either way. You can mount it forward or backward. You can mount it like that. I need to drill and tap the holes. I need to clean it up and mount it. We will probably mount it right like that. Nice and clean. The drive shafts that were included in the box, I need to find out where these come from. Steel, aluminum. It's just a hex. What are we talking? It is a 6 millimeter hex, and this is just the female, and the hex goes all the way down. Oh, is that just a set screw holding this together? These are very intriguing. Oh, yes. Yes, now. Yeah. You can see. Can we see? Yeah, it's hex all the way through. So these are cut to lengths, basically. We can absolutely... The front, because we went skid forward. So the front is very short. The gearbox is also raised 3 millimeters on all 4 screws to clear a variety of things. To clear the upper link, right there, it would be right into the upper link to clear on it, and that's because of the dig module. It would clear on anything else. Woo, that is really close. There might be, I would say, up to 1/2 millimeter in between that rod end and the gearbox. But before I get into cutting one of them, we should make sure that the other one is an acceptable length for the rear. It looks like it is. It's a perfect. Who would have guessed it? Yeah, so the front is going to have a fair bit cut off of it, but we have definitely, in the spirit of it came from the Workbench Lite. I mean, it's been the better part of a day. It's been the better part of a day to do this, and I was definitely brought crashing down by my own hubris, where I said, "Oh, the difficult part of the fabrication is already taken care of." You know, I made the side pieces to mount a skid in there. This is a procedure that I kind of recommend. I kind of wholeheartedly recommend. Even if you've got a Sport and you just leave the TRX4 axles on it and everything, if you make yourself those spacers and put that skid in it, your TRX4 is skid forward now. And combining the gear reduction of a 3-gear with TRX4 portals, that's a 4S build. That's a 4S build right there, because you're going to be slow. This is straight axles, so the axle reduction is 3.75 to 1. And then we go into this. We'll be in that. With a 52, I will probably try to fit about as small as I can go, which is probably going to be about a 13 or a 14. 13 would be great. I like a nice even ratio. That would give us 4 to 1, which would, on the final out would be, 36 to 1, somewhere around there. On a 1200 should be absolutely, it might be near perfect for class 1. This guy knew what he wanted to be before I knew what I wanted him to be, so he just kind of took over. So I am going to shorten this. I'm going to mount this. I will put a bigger on. I have 56s if we need a 56. I will get this thing cleaned up. We'll go over here. I'm opening a drawer. I'm reaching into the drawer. I'm pulling out one of these ones. 2065. I will get it tapped. We will get this 2065 mounted. And I haven't, because you have 4 servo mounting options, what are we going to go with? We'll probably go with that. because that will make the easiest to build linkage for me. And I could just pop this thing on here. Wait, how does that line up? Need to go from behind. Yeah, I need to go that way. Yeah, that should be right. Get the drive shaft mounted. This is going to go from roller, which is what it is now. This is going to go from roller to runner a lot faster than it was to get this body to cooperate with this chassis. They were not built with any intention of being married together, but my greatest fear before we can get to putting power to this thing is that I'm going to have built something that is a more than suitable Class 1 test rig. And then Lord Pennaby, whose wheels I stole, is midway through his conversion into a shorter wheelbase Class 1 test vehicle. If this guy's good at it, at least I'll know some things. I'll know some things about setting up the links and how impactful the skid forward is. I've never done skid forward Class 1, so we're going to do it together here pretty shortly. All I got to do is this. And just like that. All that remains, and I don't even need to tell you, I mean, the shocks. Those shocks are fresh out of their AliExpress and or Amazon bags. They're all the same. They have not a drop of oil in them. They probably don't even have pistons in them. They are very free moving. Here we are. I have a radio. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. There's a crazy amount of throw on these. An amount of throw to the point where dig pivots, you know? I had to drive it on the floor. I can get to the front wall of the shop. I drive it from where I'm standing over to the front wall, and I make sure the steering is trimmed. I made no adjustment other than setting endpoint. Dang old thing tracks straight. So what that means is that inaccuracies that I have no control over collided, mixed, and mingled with inaccuracies that I have implemented myself. And because the horn is not quite centered, to me it looks like it should pull that way, but it kind of doesn't. So, I was curious too. If anyone was curious, I was curious right along with you. Where did we end up? The only thing this gent should be adding after this point is paint and any other small incidental changes I might have to make. 6.9, baby, 6.95, just under 7 pounds. A little tanky little friend. You put a hard body on this, you're rocking a 10-pounder. And did you see us add any weight? No. Oh, these guys. Okay. 695 is, it was at 3151, which I liked. 3,152 grams. The pivots are on hot storms, and those hot storms are heavy. That's why I like them. So we go from 3152 to 2933, which means that, yeah, we're 225 grams a corner. This is in Class 1, 900 grams. We're very close to a kilo of wheelos. So take 900 off that 3150 total. That's not bad. 2 kilo? 2 kilos not bad. It's set up as easily as I would have anticipated. It's kind of down that canyon road, throw the battery in the front, put a Fusion 1200 in it. It is indeed fitted with a 13-tooth pinion, because 13, 26, 39, 52, so that's an even 4-to-1, which gives you a nice quiet. It was a very true spur, That is an Amazon Pinion, so it's not going to be the quietest one. If we threw in like a Robinson 13, you'd get rid of that little bit of... Also, I didn't take this all the way apart. I'm hoping that it is replaced in relatively short order. I did change the hardware on it, so we don't have to worry about anything falling out. But I am, at least not having run them yet, I am a fan of these hex drive shafts, because you can make them to whatever length you need them to be. Dig is a fun little fella. He's gear jamming. Needs like a head on top of it, yeah. You want to get this linkage as parallel to the ground as you can, which is why when I drew this up and had the help of other Canyon members to CAD it and then send it off to Send Cut Send, so I could have like 20 of them cut, so I don't have to worry about them in the future. When they had it done, I wanted to make sure that it lined up with your just ordinary $2 Amazon horn. Right? I grabbed this one because it was on the top, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm pretty okay with it. And that Injora 2065 is definitely Canyon certified. I've seen them as low as $12. I bought a 3-pack one time for $30, so they were $10 a piece. Sometimes on a typical day they're probably like $18, but still. For purposes like this, any servo you go beyond that one is just because you want to. It does everything you need it to do. We've got, in the Flex, we have not a lot, because we carried over almost all of the TRX4 geometry, aside from the link geometry, and we are pretty much links level rear. We have a little bit of link down in the front. That's not surprising because the front links are so short. I mean, relative to the rears. 100s, and then what did I say they were? Like 150-ish? So 50% longer in the rear. We're going to get about, turn the ruler over, we're going to get around 73 inches, 75. I generally shoot for about a tire. It's 75 in the back. I generally shoot for about a tire, but when you're working with a DravTech or ChavTech like this, a lot of the actual free length of the shock, the actual physical length of the shock, is determined by the rod end on it. So we might not get the exact same amount of travel that we would get. I don't think it's going to be a hindrance, honestly, because too much travel leads to a lot of instability. The list of negatives that can be attributed to a short travel setup, which is what this essentially is, and out of the box, a TRX4 is short travel, a Phoenix is short travel. Basically, anything on the VS410 chassis is short travel. Long travel is what I consider anything more than one tire's height, right? So if your travel is more than a tire, so if this thing had another third of travel, so we would go past 100 millimeters of travel, then we would start getting into long travel. But basically, this chassis, when outfitted in its stock configuration, and this chassis when outfitted in the Traxxelmenquish 410, it still doesn't want big travel. So we're going to listen to the chassis. We built an incidental class 1. There's one more thing that need be done, and that's drive it on the rocks. That's not true. There's one more thing that need be done that you need to see, which is drive it on the rocks. There's a thing that need be done that you have no reason to see, which is me spend an hour tearing these foreshocks completely apart, crossing my fingers now before removing them that they don't have a bunch of mineral oil in them. Take them apart, take the shafts out, put pistons in them, which are hanging in a bag right over there. Put pistons in them, change all the seals, fill them with oil, put them back together. And then when you see them, he'll look just like this, because if we've built something in recent memory that was more Ghost Ride ready after a single construction session, I don't know what it is. I love the look of this. This is going to look so good when it's painted, because this, there's really, ignore the cutouts, right? There's nothing I could do, right? Ignore the cutouts. This thing looks like a truck. If that makes sense. Like we don't have half of the tire sticking out of the fender well. It's got a little bit of tuck in the front, so we see a little bit of the front edge of the tire. But the rear tire is basically all the way under the fender. We built an incidental class 1. Oops, class 1. It announced quietly what it wanted to be, and I built it to that. In my estimation, it is skid forward. That gearbox is here for a good time, not for a long time. But other than that, you will see this on the rocks. I've got to take all of the suspension off, build the shocks, put it all back together. We've done that enough. If you've built one chav, you really quite literally have built them all. So I will do that, and I will then meet you outside, where we will do the things to see, how does the skid forward work? How does the travel look to us? We'll find out all of the things together right over there. Now is the part where I sit on a bucket chair and try to remember what happened in between turning off that camera and turning on this camera. Obviously, we filled the shocks. 80 weight. Traxxas 80 weight, because they did indeed have pistons. The seal pack is small spacer, seal, small spacer, seal. No, reverse that. Seal, small spacer, facing out. So there is a small spacer between the threaded end cap, whatever you like to call the thready piece. I also, while waiting for the bubbles to effuse out of 80 weight takes some time. So I assembled the megalithics on a set of Enjoras that were in the drawer, because I had this worry that A, we wouldn't get enough forward drive, and or B, our track was going to be super narrow. These are -10s, and like we've got right about what the normal width would be. So you can go proper class 1. I think this is still class 1 legal, you know, minus the dig. We might need a rear bumper, but you know what? We're not really worried about rules. We're just worried about how it drives. And I will tell you this, the suspension feels great. I have to get into a mindset that I haven't been in a while, which is class 1. This is straight axles, 419s. Megalithics have exactly what you would anticipate them to have, which is just a mountain of drive. You know, the brass dig will probably not last a long time. The brass dig engages real smooth. Real pokey slow here. 1200 feels just about perfect. Depending on how spicy you like it, I think you could gear up. Like I said, 1352. You could probably go up to a 15 on here. 16, no problem. It doesn't have a huge amount of jump to it. That is one of the benefits of small tire. And now we have double the benefit. So track width went up 20 millimeters in one shot. We went from pivots, which I am a big fan of, to megalithics, which, what are you willing to sacrifice for your performance? How much, it's the anti-vanity sacrifice. These are performance, and they are not attractive. I will have said before, and I will say again, megalithics look like an H.R. Giger, the guy who did all the artwork for Alien. That's what they're always evocative of every time I see them. Yeah, when you can go this slow, and good old F10Ts, the real deals, aluminum, but not not as stickery as others. Pretty slippery, honestly. I have not seen anything in the performance that makes me go, oh, we missed. This is a first, I would say. This is our first incidental Class 1. Did not set out specifically with the intention of, had to get it out of the way of building a Class 1. Yeah, megalithics, they got, and that is, did not put an insert together. That is J-Concepts medium. Get on, there we go. Just pivoted on the pumpkin there. Megalithic, if you have any questions at all about how does the megalithic do as a dig tire, outstanding. Omnidirectional tread is what dig like. Tell me how, like that's a good looking truck right there. It looks pretty good. And also I think the oil slick outers on the wheels that I selected somewhat randomly from the bin, they really play off of that blue-green improperly applied overspray mask. Kind of goes nice together. And this guy's paint, this guy's future paint is definitely in the family of the color of the overspray mask. So I think it's going to look pretty good. So we might as well pop over to staircase. I should and will mention it is 12 degrees, which makes sense to all of the world except America. It's like 51 degrees. I don't have to do math anymore. We have a fancy thermometer that shows both. Okay, right-hand cut is the hardest one. I feel no desire of the rig to swap ends. Seeing if we can use a dig position to pull over. I don't think we have quite enough grip. There is a whole lot of grip in those tires. I think if we catch a dig right at the right moment, I'm just gonna let it cut. Just let it cook. It does not want to flip back. Oh my gracious, that was nice. That was a little mechanical. Switch it back. Yeah. The megalithics are providing little to nothing in the way of slip. It's just forward drive. This is indeed open cell, single stage, foams all the way around on out of the package megalithics on a set of rims that I built about 10 minutes ago. 80 weight with the included 4 slots on chavs. If your chavs show up and they have, oh, look at how high you can get, and they've got 4 slot, go to your hobby store of choice or your online vendor and purchase a bottle of 80 weight, because 80 weight is the absolute jam for these. On the bench, that's rear axle, got it, no, see, still not in enough of a class 1 mindset, there we go. I don't hate the width at all. I think this setup, even with this body, is asking for a -10. I want to see if I can do the real narrow one right here. Man. For reasons I cannot explain, aside from perhaps the vanity thing, and my breathlessly waiting for 22 LP megalithics, there are a solitary set of megalithics in service in the Canyon fleet. There's no added weight on the front of this vehicle. We added the weight by moving the skid way forward. I love it. I love a TRX4. I get into a semi rant about how it is endlessly customizable. Here's a customizable that I did not anticipate coming. Is Lord Pennaby gonna lose his element rails and get all of his underneaths put into TRX4 rails? Oh, possibly, because it moves the skid so far forward. I would have to absolutely chop those rails to ribbons in order to accommodate the wheelbase on that Mojave. Here is a Class 1 rocking that, what did we say? 308, somewhere around there. I have noticed inadequacies relative or related to the height of the tire. Not once. I hang pumpkin all the time because in my head an axle is just flat across the bottom. Like when you're driving behind an old minivan with those beam rear axles and it's just a flat bar. In my head, that's what rear axles look like. So it doesn't matter how little that pumpkin hangs down. I will hang it on something. So I feel like I was fairly careful to build this thing symmetrically. We used the link tool to make sure that we were getting our links out to the same lengths. I'm pretty sure the shocks are all built to the same lengths. The right-hand side, the passenger side of the body pops out of the slider every time. Like if you take a hard left-hand turn, the body pops out. The other side will not pop out. They're built exactly the same. Same height spacers, same height everything. That body came cut, and maybe it's just there's a millimeter one way or the other, you know? Megalithics, man. Gotta just get over right there. Pull up there. Dig here. No. What I said earlier about how I'd put a Stealth X in it? No. Class 1 dig is it's delicious because the positioning and the responsiveness of the dig mechanism of everything. Look at this on the low and slow. I just have this sneaking suspicion we would not be having as lovely of a time were we on pivots. I love a pivot, but it's not green. Yeah. The brass dig is not doing bad. But I think the brass dig, unlike tires, which get better as they feather in, as the inserts set in, as they get used to the combo that they've built into, wheels and tires, all that stuff gets like progressively better. I think this dig is as good as it's going to be today. And it's just going to go slowly but inexorably downhill from here as just the little goldish dust shavings build up inside there from every time we activate. Setting it up on the bench, getting the endpoint set, felt like it is the clunkiest, chunkiest, like you have to like force the lever in with your thumb. The dig activates as fast as any other dig unit I have in service. Now, will dig have enough to pull that over? Oh man, Digalithics. Oh, I hit that dig just a second too late. Got to get past the mechanical. Keeps just rolling back, just a touch. There it is. Now that's just all belly. Got a little mechanical, and we'll cut it back, stay. No, he doesn't like that line. I think I'm just kind of bonking chassis on the way to getting the tire where I want it. That was a nice dig settle, not actually using the dig to position. There it is. This guy's a bit of a goer. Part of me, there's a sick part of me. God, I hope that it shows up in the edit as much as it does on the live view. That body looks turquoise right now. Sun coming through that non-overspray mask, which I don't know why I didn't peel out. The edges have completely feathered up. The thing is going to have to be masked inside and out. That's not going to prevent any paint from going somewhere where we don't want it to go. I just think I kind of like the colorway. It's probably a near optimal top speed, the wide open speed. And the real beauty of the 1200 Fusion is that, well, I mean, yeah, let's do it. Okay, that's 13% throttle input via cruise. It isn't moving. Good old FOC. And even, I mean, 1352 is not exactly low gearing. It's not high. It's 4-to-1 on the outside. So I still think we're sub 40-to-1. Also, to my knowledge, I didn't pop them open. No underdrive, no overdrive. We are 0-0, and it's great. I think the dig is making up for a lot. And in here, I think the width is going to really help us. Yeah, that near 7 pounds, 6'9", 5. Yeah, it does not even want to lift. That we get the tire. See this one? Will it lift this time through? Not really. Just gliding the chassis rail up across there. Absolutely no lift there. You just build it skid forward. I mean, there's a reason everybody does skid forward, and skid forward on C channels is ordinarily a little tougher to execute. There has to be somebody else out there. I didn't invent anything. This is not like, you know, somebody else has to have done this. Just put a 10.2/element skid inside TRX4 rails. But here's the problem with the internet. Like, why do people sit on it? Somebody has to have done it. Somebody has to have done it. When I first put a hair bun around a Tim-Tin, what I would at the time called the double bun, somebody was like, oh yeah, I've done that for years. Well, thanks. Thanks for sharing. So if someone out there, and they won't see this. If the person that's out there that doesn't see this has put a 3-gear on an element skid into a TRX4 C-channel chassis and just sat on it, shame on you. The hardest part was fitting the body. like putting that skid in was literally no trouble. And I'm 85% sure that I have a pair of TRX4 rails still in their plastic bag. I think I got to restart Pennaby all over again. I think he's got to go full hybrid. I don't know. Wow! He self-rights pretty okay. And the angle of the window on the mask on the inside just flapping around as it drives. The angle of the window is really TRX4 Sport-esque. So it will tip you, but it's really resistant to rolling all the way over onto the top. You know, the cuts in the bed, because they did that weird little toolbox and weird little micro fenders in there, I don't mind the cuts in the bed at all. Look how wide his buttocks look. Like he's so... And I didn't additionally trim the body. That bed is short. It's 3/4 of an inch shorter than the rest of than where the rockers are on the doors. That's fine. We've not touched that thing to earth once. Even when we drive them out of the shop, there should be a step, but when the shop was built, it's not big enough. It's too big to not have a step and too small to have a step. I tried putting a low, like a half step there, and I tripped over that threshold every day until I took the step away. So it's about I'd say probably around 8 inch, just straight down. 8 to 9 inch from the threshold down. And we drive out of the shop, we drive straight out over the threshold, and this guy didn't even catch the tail. Despite the fact that when you're sitting there looking at him, will we get rise? Ooh, we went in real high. Yeah. I would run this -10s. I'd run him all day. I would run him all day just like this. -10s and megalithics. Because from this far away, my elderly vision, I can't even see what they look like. They only look weird up close. They look, you know what, boss? They look absolutely fine to me from here. I think the maneuverability on this guy is going to be high. I cleaned my hands with alcohol, and I can still smell that gross fluid that comes from inside Chavtex when you open them up. We got real incidental with the front end. Like it just happened to work. About 1 millimeter off, and due to the differential, did I mention the differential between Panhard and Draglink? It's almost 20 millimeters because the servo placement we don't really have control over. I mean, we could. If you built a custom rack to hold the servo and you turned the servo 90 degrees and mounted it basically all the way up against the chassis rail on the driver's side, you could start to get it a little bit closer. You then have the worries of the horn hitting the Panhard mount. So there's some stuff that you could address. There's some stuff that I don't think is addressable. And then you're just opening a fresh and spicy can of worms, because then everything's out the window. Panhard placement on the axle and the chassis, we have absolutely no control over. The Panhard mount is part of the fender, and the Panhard mount is part of the axle. It's not adjustable. So with a 20 odd millimeter differential, it's strongly okay. I would like to think, are we gonna flop? Oh yeah. Megalithics doing a lot of heavy lifting here. I don't like to take credit for anything. This is mostly a curation. I genuinely, the forward hole on the chassis, which is holding the, I just figured out why the body's popping out on that side. Remember when I said I decided to use the upper hole for the front upper link? Yeah, the side skirt is not bolted on in the whole front spot of it. So the skirt is just flopping around. Because I didn't use that mount point, I didn't put a bolt and a lock nut on it. So when we get bound into something, if the slider touches anything, it just pulls the whole side down and then the body pops out. Well, there you go. We figured that one out. I used that forward hole. That was what I based everything off of, because I said, how many holes do I need to drill in the final chassis if I use this hole? 1. I drill 1 for the rear lower link mount holes. That's it. So I made a template chassis, as you saw, and then any future chassis only has to have 1 hole drilled in it. That's efficiency. Also, the template chassis is the template to make the adapter pieces, the 2 little wedges in there. And this thing clears, man. It basically sits, megalithic, it basically sits more clearance than the Bauhaus. I'm no huge enemy of the TRX4 gearbox. It is LCG. I'm no great fan of it either. If it had double the internal gear reduction that it does now, I'm genuinely surprised that Traxxas didn't just put double the gear reduction in the gearbox and outfit it with a 12-turn Titan, the same ones that come in the Slash. Then you've got a money-saving measure. Then you can run high KV in that thing and not have to worry about it. Or you could throw straight axles on it and it'd be survivable. The lack of gear reduction in the TRX4 gearbox is the biggest drawback for me. And if you put anything 3 gear in there, like we've done here, it allows us to incorporate dig. This thing is so hyper forgiving, and the dig on a Meg works so great. That was a Lego of the wheel. I try to temper my expectations, because when you come out on a ghost ride, especially when I do something like this, I'm just combining bits from other places. I made 2 pieces for this. I will make a 3rd piece. The rear body mount flops around too much. And when I make that part, I might just convert the rear to pins just for simplicity's sake. But that will come up in its 2nd and final installment here at the Canyon. We're kind of falling into a rhythm, which I'm good with. We will take this fella, we'll paint him, we'll do the little finishing works, make sure that all the nuts and bolts are in there, sand the bumper down, paint the body, get the mounts finished, make sure all the fasteners are optimized, get everything taken care of. He'll do a run. We come out here, we run green line, we run dead line, We put it in a Factor Meals box. I don't think this one will fit in a Factor Meals box. I think it's too long. We find or fabricate a box to fit it in. We ship it off to its forever home. We're trying to do things more expeditiously because shame on me. I've had rigs here for over a year. And I feel like I shouldn't do that, you know? Nobody gives me business about taking so long to do things because you got to be in the mood to do the ish, as they say. So I was in the mood to do this, so I did it in a day. And then we'll spend about a week fine-tuning, getting through it. The shocks seem great, the link lengths seem great. I don't have any, I have no major notes. And also, I thought that going to -10 was going to, for sure, give us the pirate ship. But I barely heard that body at all. Fits well, sits well, looks good, drives good. If anybody has any notes, please do. Put them in the comments below. Tune in for the next one of these or whatever comes in between the next one of these and right now. And in between that point and this point, please, one and all, do your very best to have a good one, everybody. We will see you again here from the canyon with more of things like this. I am in a very privileged position because I just want to build these all day and drive these all day. And I can't keep them all, right? There's physically not enough space. So building something with the intention of sending it off to someone else, I want to get that thing as good as I can get it. And you know what? This thing is pretty good. I mean, I might be wrong. What do I know? I'm just a rando on the internet. But I hope that you agree that on today, we did all right. Hope your day's going all right. I'll see you next time.